Hi, and welcome to the Real Life Happy Hour. So, you may have noticed a slightly different scene for this week's episode, and that's because this week is part one of a three-part series on what I call the 3 O's. Now, if you follow me on social media or you have seen the latest article on the website, then you'll know that the 3 O's stand for outside, offline, and with others. And these three things are really important aspects when we're talking about our overall kind of health and well-being. And with all the long weekends that we've had recently, and particularly when I was out with family over the Easter long weekend, it really got me thinking about these things again that I had learned a few years ago when I was doing some study on mindfulness and self-care. And so the article was born from that. And then I thought what we would do over the next 3 weeks is just chat through each of those three things in a bit more detail. So, outside. Now, anyone who's ever been to the park or gone on a nice hike or a bushwalk or been at the beach, sitting in a rainforest, whatever, you know how that feels. There's just something about being outside in nature that just makes us feel better. And they've done a fair bit of research on that because it's a fairly global experience that people have. And so there are three main theories that people think have an impact on why we feel so good when we spend some time in nature. Now, the first of these is what they call attention restoration. And basically what that means is if we consider our attention is a finite resource, so we only get so much ability to pay attention in any given day. And in the really information dense and fast-paced world that we live in, particularly at the moment, it's really easy to deplete that resource. And what they think is that being outside in nature somehow has a restoring effect on our attention. And that's because when you're out in nature, your attention is more effortlessly drawn to one thing after another. So you might notice the leaves blowing in the breeze, or you'll see a butterfly fly past. And so your attention is just naturally and effortlessly moving from one single thing to another, rather than trying to be aware of 1,000 things all at once. So that's the first theory. The second theory is more around stress reduction. So being outside allows us to move out of a kind of period of hyper-arousal and that sense of busyness, and allows us to calm the mind, calm the body, and in a similar way, just move back into a more natural and relaxed state. So that's the second theory. And then the third theory is what they call the biophilia theory. And this stems from the fact that the enjoyment of nature and the response that humans have to nature is fairly consistent across all cultures. And so what they propose in this theory is that there's actually an innate tendency within all humans, and it's partly genetic, they believe, that leads us to a love of life and living systems and nature. And so, so that's why they believe that everyone seems to experience these positive effects of being out in nature. But as we move as humans move further and further away from being in nature, there's a risk that we could lose this. And as our lifestyles become more and more inside and online, that we may not actually experience that same innate connection with the living environment. So they're the kind of three theories. in reality, it's probably a little combination of all of those things that is the reason why we feel so good when we're outside. So there's one really beautiful technique or way of utilising this natural ability of outside and nature to impact on our wellness. And this comes from Japan. And it's called Shinrin-yoku, which translates to forest bathing. And no, it has nothing to do with getting naked in a stream, but it's about mindfully and consciously being aware while you're in nature. So being aware of the environment around you, being aware of your body, and being aware of your mind, and really slowing down. And it came out of corporate 1980s Japan, which was very intense, lots of working hours. And there was a phenomenon that occurred during this period of intense busyness in Japanese culture called karoshi. And karoshi is basically death from overwork. So, Japanese businessmen were working so hard that they were keeling over from heart attacks. And so the government invested some money in research into how they could combat this experience. And that's where Shinrin-yoku came from. So it's a very formal practice. So people train to become guides in this kind of practice. But it involves, we can take some of the parts of it and use it ourselves. So it involves spending a significant amount of time in a forest or in nature, and starting by noticing. So you notice all the tiny little details of the environment around you. You notice your body and your mind, and you notice all of your senses. So it's really slowing down and really taking notice that you do in this practice. It's also very much about slowing down. So usually they'll have a period of walking with intention, similar to a walking meditation, if anyone's familiar with that. And that's where you walk very slowly, and you're noticing every sensation as your foot falls. You're noticing every single leaf and branch and moving creature. And it's really about taking that time. And then it's also about making friends with the forest. So really being a part of the living environment. So it's a beautiful practice. If you have a look at the article, there's a link to a really nice article that the ABC did on Shinrin-yoku. So something to check out. Now, Indigenous cultures have had nature and the environment as central. This connection to nature is at the centre of their entire belief systems. Oh, hello, Dustin. Yes, hello. So say here in Australia, First Nations people, they don't see nature as, dirt and trees and grass and animals, but it's its own living, breathing entity. It's a part of them, and they are a part of it. So it's very connected, and it's a beautiful way to experience nature. I went to a retreat last year where we had not a welcome to country, but it was an introduction to country, which basically means it was introducing yourself to the natural environment. So it's getting that really deep connection, touching the trees, having a sense of almost introducing yourself and getting a feel for the place where you are, which is similar to what they've done with forest bathing, is really building that connection. So one of the caveats though to any time in nature is that it has to be tech free. So when they've done research into the benefits of being outside and in nature, the benefits were pretty much balanced out or negated if you had tech with you. So if you're sitting outside but you're on your laptop or on your phone, then the distraction and the divided attention of looking at the screen will actually counter the beautiful attention restoring effects of being outside in nature. And it's even things like I used to always walk with a podcast or music playing in my ear, but I don't do that anymore. So if I walk the dogs or I go for a walk, I try not to take my phone, or I don't listen to anything. I don't wear earphones, so that you can actually be fully present while you're in nature. So it's if you're here in Queensland, it's a beautiful day today, and it's looking like it's going to be a really nice weekend for our last long weekend for a while. So it might be a really nice time to get outside and really connect yourself back into that slower pace that nature provides. So give it a go. Maybe you could try some forest bathing, or you can just sit outside and enjoy the clouds floating past, or a bushwalk or something like that. So have a lovely rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you next week when we talk about the next of the 3 O's.